that marriage at that lowest point?
I think the lowest point in my marriage was we had done multiple um, marriage counseling sessions, pastoral counseling, um, and as he got older, um, he became more angry, and I was fearful. I was terrified of him, and it progressed to the point where I really feared for not just my life, but the lives of my children. Um, and I really struggled with that because when he was good, he was very good. Um, and when he wasn't, he really, really wasn't. And walking on eggshells every day and living in a constant state of fear and anxiety, I finally asked myself one day, what's scarier? Being on the front page of a newspaper one day or trying to make it on your own with your children? And I decided at that point that I needed to do what was best for me and my children, and encourage and hope that he would seek um, medical attention to have peace of mind. And that's what I had told him through the majority of our years being married, that all I wanted was for him to have peace of mind. And and that was a pivotal turning point for me, was deciding what was scarier, um, being with him
Yeah,
or being without him.
I love that. I love that perspective for our listeners because I call it, when I do my coaching, I call it the worst case scenario. I always say, when you have a fear, think of the worst case scenario. And when you put it into words or you write down that worst case scenario, you bring that fear to light and then it feels a little easier. And I love that you took the perspective of what is worse. And I think we've worked through these things, we'll experience them over and over and say, I can't even think about not being with this person. And what I was writing some notes when you were speaking is what we forget is when we're in these codependent relationships or abusive relationships, there isn't just the psychological, mental, and physical abuse, but there's also this economical fear.
Mm-hmm.
And and I was there with you. I mean, I certainly didn't think I made enough money to support my three children and pay all the bills. But I did what you did, where I'm like, you know what? I would rather be struggling with my children and them be happy and me be happy and figure out the financial stuff, where probably years later it kept me in there. And I love that you talk about, throughout the marriage, I just wanted him to be well. I wanted him to be well. And I think that's important. We all kind of, anyone who's overcome anything or been able to remove themselves from these situations that are not healthy, is we finally reach a point where we stop caring about them being well and we start caring about ourselves being well. And like you said, that building of that self confidence for you was everything. And recognizing going forward into these new relationships, I also love that the way that you and I are so similar is I had to take that hiatus and get out of relationships too. My codependence was I needed to have someone always by my side, whether they were good or bad. I still wanted someone. And so I love that we're starting this theme to help everyone, which is learn to be comfortable in your own skin, learn to be alone, learn to do things that are outside of your comfort zone. And once you face that fear, it's like someone who's afraid of a roller coaster, and then they get on the roller coaster and get off and they think, oh, well, I'm still alive, I made it through, and that wasn't so bad, and actually it was kind of fun. I think fear is like that, don't you?
I do. And part of it was for me, I felt like I had no self worth or purpose unless I had a partner. And to realize that I don't have to have a partner to have self worth. And that that time that I was on a hiatus, I'm not saying that was an easy journey. That was a very, very difficult journey for me. It was probably one of the hardest things that I've had to face, because it was just me, and discovering who I was in that moment at that time. It was very, very difficult, but the end reward was so grand, because the more I did things that were uncomfortable, the easier it became. So when I would overcome, and it was baby steps for me, like literally, I'm going to go to the movies by myself. And for some people, that's a no-brainer. For me, it was a very difficult. Or going to events by myself, going to community events by myself. For some people, that's really easy. For me, it was not. I always had somebody that I depended on, financially, emotionally, or whatever. And to have to work through that process by myself was not an easy journey. And but the end reward has been really, really great. So would I do it over again? Would I have all those experiences again to get to where I'm at today? So if somebody said, Laura, you had to live that life all over again to have this life that you have now, would you do it? And I probably would. Not saying that I would want to, because I don't want to, but to get to where I'm at today, and I'm not saying that I don't continue to have struggles. I do continue to have struggles, but I have the ability to work through those struggles. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than I would hope for, but giving myself that time to learn the tools that I needed for myself that work for me to overcome those struggles has been very, very rewarding. But that's part of the process of when I decided one day to message you after 20 some years, to message you and say, hey, I don't, it was scary to do that, because I wanted to reconnect, but I didn't know if I was able to reconnect. And little did I know, when I reconnected with you, that you were doing this. So that was a journey in itself as well, because with reconnecting with you and you being a life coach, little did I know that I would be life coached through this process. And I think we did that through our conversations of reconnection for a good year. And you warranted me some tools that I very much needed to take that hiatus as well. And so it's just really been a beautiful journey since we've reconnected. I've utilized the tools that you've given me and still continue to do that. Like I said, I'm a work in progress. I'm not perfect, and nothing is perfect, but I'm for the first time in my life, very content with where I'm at. I've got some struggles going on today right now, and so it's just a matter of working through that process and utilizing the tools. And I may be able to get through this moment today right now, or it may take me till tomorrow, it may take me till Friday, but I don't marinate in the what ifs anymore. And so it's still, life is not an easy journey, and it's certainly not been an easy journey, but I've been incredibly blessed to have the tools to be able to get through that. And then of course the support of the life of my partner. Yeah.
I love that, there's so many things in there I want to address. So the sort of the backstory, guys, about us reuniting is we had a mutual friend who had said something to Laura about me not wanting to be her friend anymore, and said something to me about Laura not wanting to be my friend anymore, that I was angry at her. And it's funny that the maturity of life, now we talk on the phone and we'll say, that would never happen today because I would pick that phone up and I will call you out. So the beauty of maturing and the beauty of wisdom and growing older. So look at where her and I were in our youth, in our own insecurities. We didn't have the bravery to just call each other up and say, hey, what the heck? Are you mad at me? So we projected our own insecurities onto one another, and we lost our beautiful, beautiful friendship for 25 years. And when we reunited, it was as if time never went by and we were those 15-year-old girls again. And she's my sister now. I can go to her with so much honesty and she can come to me with honesty, and we're just these open books. And as sad as I am that we lost those years, Laura always says to me, but it had to happen because we needed to go through those things on our own. Just like I talked about in my relationship where I broke up with my husband and we had to heal ourselves to come back and be the best people. And Laura echoes this in the relationship she has now when she was dating her lovely man that she has today. What's interesting, Laura, is I said the same thing. I didn't know how to be alone. And what I realized was my identity, I didn't have an identity. All my identity was mom and wife and friend and friend to others, or being there as a daughter. So there was no individual identity that I had as just being me, Maureen. And when I started doing what you did, going out there, I remember the first time sitting at a coffee shop, I thought everyone was looking at me like, haha, she's single. She must be really unlovable. It's silly how our minds can create these false negative beliefs. But that's what I thought because I'd never done it alone. And my upbringing, programming, experience had been, you need to have a partner in life to count for something. And so I agree with you. The first steps when I tell my clients, you got to build your self-image, your self-esteem, and your self-confidence first. That's funny, when you're a codependent, you were either taught to believe or you just created this in your own mind that that's selfish. I'm not supposed to focus on me. I'm not supposed to do everything for me. That's being self-absorbed. That's being full of yourself. That's being vain. I know in my childhood, that's what I was raised to believe was you need to do things for others. Look at some of the sayings that we say. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Or, suck it up, buttercup. It's like we were never taught to take care of us first, believe in ourselves first, and speak our minds and our truth, and believe that we have a right to the best life and the things that we want and deserve. And so I love and I appreciate, excuse me, I appreciate your the way that she says it's life coaching, and for me it was just, it's what's come natural to me. She said something to me, Laura, you said something to me that sticks with me to this day. When we reunited and I said, hey, I am life coaching, and you said to me, well, yeah, you've been doing it since we were kids. And it really hit me because I didn't see myself then as a helper. I didn't know my purpose. And it was super cool for you to kind of make me aware that this is who I am and who I've always been. And so I thank you for those words. And I know you didn't even know they were that profound, but it helped me to say, because I tend to, and I don't know if you do this, I tend to say the first half of my life was a shit show and I was a mess. And the second half of my life is grand. And that's really not true. It's more a blending of, I had these qualities in the first half of my life. I just didn't utilize them. I didn't have that awareness. I didn't have the strength that I have now. And the second half is learning how to sift and sort. Like you said, we are a work in progress. Well, heck yeah, because the only time your work is done is when you're done here on earth. So yeah, we're going to be a work in progress.